Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we talk about horror movies here on this show. And on this episode, we are going to be talking about Arbor Demon, which is a new film to VOD. And obviously, if you watch our reviews regularly, you'll know that we're in a bit of a rut. We've had a string of less than pleasant movies. So we went into this hoping that maybe our spirits would be lifted a little bit. Obviously, we like Split, but everything else that we've basically watched in the last month and a half has been dire to the worst thing I've ever seen on that scale. That's been the scale so far this year. I think I commented last week how I've given out like 2 1s, a 2 and a 3 out of 10.
It's insane.
Since we started the year. It is pretty bad. But Arbor Demon, we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. And this is a movie about a couple who go into the woods for a camping trip for their anniversary, because this is where he originally proposed to her. And there is a creature of sorts in the woods that attack them, but they also come into contact with a stranger who seems untrustworthy, played by Jake Busey, who's not the Busey that I am typically looking for. I have to say.
This is not the Busey you were looking for.
Yeah. I much prefer his father. What can I say?
The Busey is in another castle. Something, I don't know. I was trying to think of like internet memes.
But that's the gist. That's the gist of it. I feel like there's not much more to say in the plot.
No,
before spoilers.
No, like 90% of the movie is just a couple talking in a tent.
Well, I will debate you on one key small point of that phrase.
Okay.
It's a couple and Jake Busey talking in a tent for most of the movie.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, might be accurate, Tim. Yeah. So it's funny because obviously that sounded really negative, and I think ultimately I am not that into the movie, and we'll talk about why. It's a shame. I don't think it's as bad as the other stuff I've watched recently, though. I think there's some positives going for it. Unfortunately, the positives that are going for it are not enough to make the movie enjoyable. But like, right, first things first, I actually think the acting from the leads is not bad. I think Fiona Dourif, who plays Dana, is actually a proper actress who will likely get proper work going forward.
I don't have a problem with that.
Like, I think when the movie started, I was a little bit worried because it looks a little bit more like a TV show than it does a movie. It's got that kind of look to it. It doesn't look as cheap shit as it watches, don't get me wrong. It looks produced. It looks like someone who knows how to light something has made it. But it doesn't look like a movie. It looks more like a TV show. And you immediately worry, oh crap, the actor's going to be terrible. Is it going to feel just painful? And they weren't. Like, the most positive thing I can say about this movie is I thought the opening half hour was fine. Like, I thought the setup of the characters and what their sort of core conflict is, and it's mainly all revolving around pregnancy, and she's keeping it from him. That's kind of what we learn right at the start. And he doesn't really want a baby, she doesn't want a baby, blah, blah, blah. And they're going out for this trip, and you can tell there's some friction there, but they're a married couple in love. And I thought most of that first half hour was fine. Like, it was proper. Like, had the rest of the movie went into a fun monster movie, I'd have been quite happy with that first half hour. It's just because it didn't. It just ended up in them in a tent.
Yeah, I was so bored.
Oh, so was
throughout
that.
This movie,
So,
and I see what you're saying. Like the characters are fine, and if this was the introductions and stuff that was leading up to a crazier movie, yeah, that I would have been okay with that. But yeah, as a whole, I was like itching for something to happen.
oh yeah,
And
like I say, it's just a weird thing to say. It's good about a movie that the opening half hour where it's just the build, it's just the setup of the characters is good, because I thought it was like, had the rest of the movie been either fun or scary or tense, anything that would have made it good, instead of being just painfully boring, because it was painfully boring. The opening half an hour was fine, bordering on good. Like, the character setups make sense. They're not annoying characters. They feel relatively 3-dimensional.
yeah, I mean, it could have easily been like, if this was just a slice of life movie about a couple going through some motions, trying to figure out where they are in their relationship, and that, like, going in, that could have been fine. But when you got a title so evocative, like Arbor Demon.
Evocative. It's an evocative title now. Oh my.
Well, I gotta admit, you hear that title and your ears kind of perk up, like Arbor. Okay, I think I know what that means. Demons. I definitely know what that means.
uh, like I said, best that it's looking for it. It's got some proper actors, especially Fiona Dourif plays Dana, the lead, and the characters aren't annoying. They feel like proper characters, so that if they went into an actual horror movie later, I would have quite enjoyed them in the horror movie. Unfortunately, things just kind of escalate. So there's no real build to the tension. There's a couple of noises at one point, but it just kind of suddenly happens, and then it becomes them in a tent for like almost the rest of the entire movie, and which doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I'm going to bring up another movie here. We've not done an episode on this one, but you've seen Willow Creek, right?
Oh yes, I have. Yeah.
Right, I didn't like Willow Creek. I thought Willow Creek was full of all the usual found footage bollocks that I think just feels like padding. Most of the movie I didn't like. I didn't like the ending. However, the one thing in that movie that I loved, there was a 15-minute scene in a tent towards the end of the movie, and it is just two characters in a tent hearing noises, but it's phenomenal. It is super tense, and it's one shot. There's no cuts, and it feels super, super tense. Fantastic. So I know from that scene that you can do characters in a tent and have it be riveting, have it be
definitely
just engrossing and on the edge of your seat. You can have all that with just characters in a tent. This movie though, it felt like there was no tension. It just felt like we're here, and like Jake Busey's character, what's his name, Sean, he's supposed to be this wild card, and he's like, oh, is he really against them? Is he going to try and kill them himself? Is he? And he's so predictable. You know exactly. He doesn't do a single thing that's surprising the entire time.
Yeah.
The entire time. He's just so predictable.
Yeah, there's nothing really like intriguing about him.
No.
Very face value.
Yeah. He's also the worst actor of the three as well. Mm-hmm. He's far too cheesy and obvious. Because that's the thing. The two main characters are sort of grounded enough and feel kind of relatable for the most part, that they feel like real people. And then he comes in feeling like he is out of a B movie, and it kind of jars, it contradicts. And then, honestly, the monster design, I wasn't that keen on either.
I actually didn't mind it that much. For me, that was maybe the one thing that I didn't mind about the movie. Like, it's definitely nothing to write home about, for sure. But when I first saw them, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And if they had done something, I don't want to get too specific.
You also don't even spoilers, really, but obviously you're meant to conceal them till later on in the movie, and that's fine. And they do that. You don't really see them properly until quite late on. The problem is that I don't even think it was clear what they were or were not maybe doing. Especially when we get to the end of the movie and stuff's revealed, it doesn't really make sense. Some of it doesn't make sense with what we've seen earlier. Like, I can't really talk about spoilers, but it just the scene where the sort of the danger starts, where the sort of the horror element of the movie starts, feels kind of weird when we find out how they actually function later on. It's kind of weird. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like there was some promising in the setup, and then it became people in a tent without any tension, without any surprises, without any even good gore or anything like that. There's also some really weird filmmaking techniques that really bothered me. Like, I don't think the movie's badly shot typically, but there's some weird choices where, okay, you're concealing what the monster's doing, you're concealing what's going on, right? That's fine, that's horror. But there's a point where if the characters are seeing it, we should see it too.
Yeah.
The main characters anyway. Obviously you have scenes in movies where a character will open a door, and maybe it's a minor character who's about to die, and they'll open the door and they'll just scream, and it'll be like a tease. But that's okay, because later when our main characters see whatever it is later, we'll see it as well, and we'll discover it with them. There's moments in this movie where there's stuff happening in broad daylight right in front of the characters, and it just cuts to their reaction, and we don't get to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And that just feels cheap. It feels like it's betraying us, like, well, you're just holding stuff back now.
Yeah, I wonder if it was like a budget thing or something, or
I don't
if
know.
they were trying to be more mysterious or something. If they were, it definitely did not pay off.
It just feels weird, especially since you say it's a budget concern. But I mean, the monster was like someone in makeup. It's not like it's.
Yeah. I no. To be fair, my expectations might have played a part in this. Because when we were talking about, doing this movie for this week, we got a little excited because you hear the title, you watch the trailer, Jake Busey's in it. You don't expect this is going to be high art, but you think, oh, this is going to be
Goofy fun.
fun, cheesy, yeah, and it wasn't. And I don't know if they were trying to go for something more serious, but if they would have embraced,
I think they were. When we go to spoilers and we talk about the sort of the main theme of the movie, and I think there was supposed to be a message in there, but it's really murky. I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be.
Just imagine someone's life getting changed by watching this movie.
But
I didn't know how I felt about you until I watched Arbor Demon. It made all my feelings so clear.
But here's the thing though. We watched the trailer and we're like, oh, this looks like it might be a glorious train wreck or like a fun, goofy movie. And for that, we were up for a fun, goofy monster movie. That seemed like just the thing we wanted after the last few weeks. And then the movie started, and it felt like it was really serious, but it seemed like it had promise because, like I say, the opening half an hour, there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. Characters are good enough, and whatever else. So I'm like, oh, maybe this will actually be a good movie. Maybe. Yeah. And then as soon as Jake Busey came into the scene, then I'm just like, oh god, this is starting to take a downturn. And then it was them in a tent for however long, and it just, I know.
Well, I mean, I don't really have too much more to say before we go into spoilers. I don't know if you want to jump right into it.
No, I think we've reached that crossroads in our lives, Tim.
Well, now you're getting all serious on me. Pete, would you like to have a child?
Just define what you mean by have a child. Okay, before we say anything else, I would just make the obvious spoiler wars, the great spoiler wars of 2017. No, spoiler warning.
I feel like we kind of started it with Split, the spoiler wars.
The spoiler wars. That's true. Yeah, I'm fighting the media one outlet at a time. Come on, come at me. Right. So spoiler warning from this point on. Full spoilers for Arbor Demon. So.
First of all, let's get over the obvious. Arbor Demon.
Yes,
a lot more than just one.
And I would argue they're not really demons.
No, yeah, not really.
They're more like fairy tale ghost zombie ladies. Yeah. They've got like bits of. They're basically cheap swamp things. Is the best I would put it. And I was kind of disappointed when I seen them. I was going to start at the start though. I was going to start with so obviously the big theme of the movie is pregnancy and sort of treating pregnant, because we find out this backstory, because this is the other problem with Jake Busey's character. He's basically, not only is he the obvious like antagonist where he's this awful piece of shit, he's also Captain Exposition, who tells us lots and lots of things about what his grandma told him about this legend of this, I can't remember the woman, but this legend of a pregnant woman who, but this was back, I think he put it as before everything went white. The tribes like kidnapped a pregnant girl from the other tribe and they fed her to the bear pit or whatever, but she was pregnant, which I don't think they knew, but or they must have known because they said that the baby survived, but whatever. But this started this, and now this place draws pregnant women to it. And then this is obviously we're getting right to the end of the sort of the big reveal at the end, but it's really obvious by the time we get there, is that the pregnant women become these creatures. As soon as I seen there was more than one, I was like, okay, she's becoming one. That's what this is. And that's fine. It's not, I don't think it was exciting or interesting, but it's fine. And I actually kind of liked how they started the theme of this though at the start of the movie, because you see her on the phone and she's talking, and it sounds like she's setting up for an appointment for an abortion. That's what it sounded like. And it puts you in this frame of mind of, oh, she doesn't want the kid, and she's not telling him. And you almost, you don't dislike her for it, but it feels like, oh, that's kind of a shitty thing. You need to tell him. He has a right to know that you're going to abort your child. And it kind of puts you on the offense against her in a sort of subtle way. But then in the car, when they're driving, she brings it up. Well, she doesn't bring it up, but she starts asking about him, about, oh,
So
do you want
yeah,
a
like
kid?
maybe we should have our own little rock star or
Yeah.
something like that.
And he immediately is like, oh, we talked about this when we're married. We're not that people. And then you feel like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why she doesn't want to tell him, is because she already knows he doesn't want it. And she's trying to like put a feeler out so that she can change her mind and not get the abortion. She's trying to get the info so she can make the decision against it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was what made them interesting characters, is that they introduced all this information in a really sort of a way where it put them against each other, but you understood them both, and you understood her conflict, where she agreed when they got married, they were both in agreement, we don't want kids, but now that she's pregnant, or maybe just things have changed in the last couple of years, but she's there.
And unlike the rest of the movie, it actually felt natural. It didn't really feel like forced or exposition-y or anything.
Exactly, which is why I think the first, maybe I keep saying half an hour, it may not be a full half an hour, but 20 minutes, whatever it is.
So, yeah.
That first portion I think is really well handled. Then they get in the woods and there's like evidence of other people being around, and there's these rednecks out one night, and this is the problem, is that they see the rednecks out there, they've got their binoculars out, and they're like, oh, I'm going to go and talk to them. They can't nearly run us over with their bikes and whatever. And all of a sudden the rednecks start shooting at something, and they all start screaming and dying, and Charles, who's Dana's husband, runs out to like rescue one person, and it turns out to be Jake Busey, and immediately they can't leave the tent because there's something outside, and
and of course you don't see any of this going on, which is really baffling, because just to skip ahead, these Arbor Demons, if you will, they don't appear to be like a very fast, very physical kind of lot, but like from the way the action goes, it sounds like people are running around and shooting and jumping and dodging and stuff. But then you get into the end, they just look like people that just kind of peer out from trees and stand ominously.
They feel that scene makes it appear as if it is one big monster who's rampaging through them, and they're panicking and shooting back. That's not. We don't see any indication that that's how they act for the rest of the movie. It's really weird. Doesn't line up. But the whole pregnancy thing, though, is it actually sets up the theme of the movie really well, because she's scared to tell him she's pregnant because he's so against having kids, and it kind of ties into that backstory where this pregnant woman was mistreated. So it's all about unwanted pregnancies, I guess, or something like that. I don't know if they never say it's all single mothers or potential single parents who are lured out to the forest, but I guess it's implied that she's lured there because he doesn't want it, even though he doesn't know it exists.
Yeah.
But that's why she's lured there, so whatever, fine. The problem is
interesting enough wrinkle to the story.
Oh yeah,
but,
the theme's fine. I think the theme is a decent little theme to have in a horror movie. The problem is that as soon as we get to this point where they've got Busey in the tent, the rest of the movie is painfully boring.
Yeah, it's hard.
I mean, so much of it is just Busey like constantly talking or saying really mildly intimidating things or stuff like that, hitting on the wife when he's sitting. Just
this is definitely a movie where you have to challenge yourself to not like look at your phone or check Facebook or something.
And I want to point out something here. I want to point out that I love when this is done well. I love movies where you've got a small group of characters and they're trapped in one location.
Oh, sure.
And there's danger outside. I love that setup. I love it. When that's done well, when you get a bottle horror movie that's done well, I am in love with it. But this was painful once they got into that tent. It was painful. Because part of me thought, oh, okay, we're having this setup scene, but eventually we'll go and do other things. But before I knew it, not before I knew it, it dragged, but it just kept going and it kept going. And we had that whole thing where Busey slipped the pills back into the drink so the husband would fall asleep. And you think, oh, is he going to try something with the wife while he's asleep?
Yeah. And
he kind of flirts with her, but he doesn't really do much. I mean, at one point he brushes her hair and he's kind of hitting on her, but he doesn't. I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't go anywhere. And then it gets to the point where the husband's woken up again, and it's like, okay, so nothing really noteworthy happened while I was asleep.
Yeah. It's very pointless. I don't know. Everything feels like even if they do leave the tent for a little bit, they quickly go back.
They quickly go back.
Like it's not like it'd be one thing if it's like, oh hey, like we're gonna spend some little time here to set up, but hey, let's form a plan of attack. How we're gonna handle these guys, and then you get to the next. It's like a safe room in a video game, and you gather your supplies, and then you're on to the next portion.
I think that's part of the problem is that there's not much planning. Like they say, all right, there's one of those 4-wheelers out there. We're going to go get to that. Yeah. They say that almost immediately. Oh, but we need to wait till daytime. So then it's like, oh, let's just talk all night until then.
Wait, but there's only 2 people can fit on the 4-wheeler. Who are we gonna take? Obviously not you, Jake PC.
Obviously, I think we're going to take each other. That feels like the way to go here.
Yeah.
So goddamn mind numbing at times. So there's a really kind of, I guess there's a dark twist with him as well, because at first he lies. He says he was looking for his brother because the monster took him, and then when Dana sees one of the creatures, it's got a ring on that's the same as his, and he's like, oh, that was your wife. You came out here because your wife was here. And
it's like a weird ring too. It has like a
snake.
Like
yeah,
the snake.
I thought they were going. I thought when she's seen the ring on his finger, I thought they were going to say that he was actually part of like a cult that takes people out here or something like that. I
Please. Yes, that would have been much more interesting.
I thought that's where they were going with it. But then at the end of the movie, when all the creatures show up right in the climax, and Busey again awkwardly says, they want you to kill me, it's your initiation, and she's already like half turned, she's got like twigs coming out of her hand and whatnot.
You know what they kind of look like? I actually didn't think about this until like right now, but they kind of remind me of the guy in Troll 2 who's like slowly turning into like a tree.
That there you go. That's a good comparison. It's a good comparison. And we find that his daughter is also one of these things, and she comes out and she's early teens or if that, but they only turn into this if they're pregnant. So immediately I think the implication is that he raped his daughter.
I didn't even think about that. I was like so bored at this time, but
I mean, it could have been someone else, but because they've been showing me that he's such a sleazy, slimy scumbag the whole movie, I just immediately jumped to, oh crap, he raped his daughter. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I think it's just that just makes the most sense to me, given the whole theme of the movie and unwanted pregnancies, and obviously he doesn't want the kid if it's his other kid.
Yeah.
So
maybe it's like a justification for killing him off.
Maybe I feel like he already earned that. To be honest,
true. Yeah. No one's shedding any tears for Jake Busey.
No, and it's funny because I did notice some people online saying they thought, oh, this did different things with the genre, and that the ending wasn't, the conclusion wasn't predictable. But I actually thought it was. Like, as soon as I seen more than one monster, I'm like, she's becoming one. And I thought, okay, maybe they'll swerve it where she'll somehow save her husband. Like, she'll still turn into one, but she'll get her husband to safety first.
Wait, Pete, hold on, back up for a second.
Yeah.
Other people have seen this.
Other people have seen this.
And are actually talking about it.
Believe it or not, Tim. Believe it or not.
Wow. No offense if this is your favorite movie. not you specifically, but if anyone is listening.
Oh, offense to me if it's my favorite movie though.
Oh well, yeah.
Of course.
That would just reaffirm my suspicion of your dubious tastes.
Luckily, it's not. Although it probably does win my title of favorite new horror film I've seen in February.
Oh god, that is sad.
You'd probably agree with that, actually.
Well, this February, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean this Feb, not all Februaries.
Yeah.
Come on now. But yeah, she goes up to the husband, and she's all like sort of zombified at this point, and she's not thinking with her own mind, and she snaps his neck. She's become one with the vengeful pregnant lady tree people, and that's the end of the movie. And it didn't do anything to subvert my expectations, where I thought, oh, maybe she'll fight it at the end long enough for him to survive, or maybe she'll do this. It was, And I don't know if it's meant to be empowering, like it's like rising up against the evil men who
Uh,
mistreat you or whatever. But the funny thing is, though, other than the pregnancy thing, he's actually seems to be a pretty decent husband.
oh yeah, no, like
Yeah.
I never got the feeling that he was a bad guy.
No, and
And
once he finds out as well, that he like the thing they might not make it, he leans down to her and says, "I could be a good dad." Like
yeah,
it's,
well,
it's that kind of thing where once he knows, he processes it and he
yeah,
considers it. He's not he he shuts it down when it's theoretical
yeah, of course.
to him, but
Yeah.
he doesn't act too badly once he actually knows. So he doesn't feel like he earns being killed. So
Right. Yeah, it's not like she mentions it to him and he's like, "Well, I think all babies should be aborted." You know, it's not, it's like he had like some crazy no, and I'm sure that happens with like a lot of people too that they don't think about it until it's there in front of them.
yeah.
Now I wouldn't say that
By the way, I'm just see when you said there, he didn't. When she said he didn't immediately go, "All babies should be aborted." For some reason in my head, I just thought that maybe this movie would have been more outrageously fun if she said, "I'm pregnant," and then he went, and then he slowly reaches for a coat hanger, slowly.
oh god.
Well, mate, take care of it, honey.
Well, you know my rules about these sort of things. No, yeah, like he doesn't seem that bad, and I can't say that I particularly saw the ending coming, but that's just because I didn't care. So I wasn't even invested enough to wonder what was gonna happen. I just wanted it to end.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about that because I don't really see how anything was like subverting the genre or anything.
I think it just in the sense that, like, if you go into expecting like just a typical monster movie where it's a couple in a woods being terrorized by a monster until they die or escape at the end, it at least
Okay.
had a mythology. It was trying to tell some sort of vengeful story.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, kudos to, not just trying to do the typical expected cliche horror movie. That's it's always interesting, when people try.
Oh,
But
absolutely. But
yeah,
I think the sad truth is, though, I would rather have a movie that retells an old plot that's made with more skill. Like, because once they get into the tent, it's boring and it's not tense, it's not scary. And I'd rather have a more typical plot where that stuff was tense and scary and actually got a reaction out of me. Hell, I'd take it if it was laughably bad over this. Boring's almost the worst sin because I'm not into it. I'm not emotive in any way. I'm not even
yeah.
yelling at it. I'm just sitting there in
Trying to get it
silence.
over with.
Oh dear.
Two things I want to bring up is just again coming back to like how really non-threatening these like demons are. Like there's a point where they're in the tent and you kind of see like they keep kind of running by and like scratching the tent and stuff, but it's so like it like everything they do feels very light and gentle. Like never at any point was I nervous like, oh, they're gonna like rip the tent apart. To go back to Willow Creek, just to kind of echo your sentiments there, not a perfect movie. I like it a little more than you do, but it is definitely worth watching for that tent scene alone, and you can feel actual danger in there. At this, it's just they're just in a tent and it's just moving slightly. You see some eyes through it. You see him scratching it a bit, but I never really felt scared for him.
And it didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, obviously, eventually they reveal that, oh, they're not coming in because she's pregnant. They don't actually want to hurt her, and that's why they're not coming in. Because for a lot of the movie, I was like, why is the tent keeping them out? It's a tent. But when you do eventually see them and they show up, they just kind of stand and look and point and just kind of and not be creepy. They're honestly kind of lame, and it's
Yeah. And then even when you get to the big climax and stuff at the end, where you actually get some deaths, Jake Busey, like he trips and gets his head goes into those antlers.
well, he didn't trip. Dana pushes him onto it.
Oh, right. And even that, it's like so. It doesn't feel very impactful. It feels like his head just kind of hits it, and then one of the demons comes. It's his daughter, I believe.
Yep.
Right, that comes, and she pushes his head in, but again, it just kind of feels like she's slightly nudging his head into the spikes or antlers or whatever. Like it feels so like you're not even being like forceful at all or anything. And then when Dana snaps her husband's neck, even that, like, it doesn't feel like a forceful snap. It's kind of like she's like slightly touching him and then just kind of like
it feels too weak. And then what was worse is the shot after it where he just kind of focuses on his head and he's just kind of like that.
Yeah.
He's still clearly breathing. Like, they didn't really make a good enough effort to disguise that fact. And that really bothered me. And just to go back to the daughter thing, the reason why I think I jumped to it being like abuse from him, I think it's her age, because she's like really young. She's not at an age where I expect she's just pregnant from, like, shacking up with another teenager. She seems younger than that. She seems, which is why I think I jumped to abuse from the father. That's why I think I went there. In addition to him being a complete sleazeball and slime bag the whole movie.
I could see that. I guess my one thing I thought, and again, I didn't think too long about it, but I assume like these pregnant women, they get infected by these tree demons, and then they give birth, and now their kids are part tree or something. I don't know.
Oh, you were thinking she was born after?
Yeah.
I'm going to say no, just because he recognizes it. He knows who she is.
Oh, true, yeah.
So how would he know? That'll be why I'd say no to that.
That's a fair point. Did they ever mention, though, what happens with the children?
I don't think they get born. I think they... I don't know.
Just get turned into a tree.
I feel like we didn't see enough kids to... Because would they still grow?
I have no idea. And I don't care.
Nor do I. That's Arbor Demon. I think we're ready for ratings, Timmy.
Yeah.
Ready for ratings.
Well, it is better than some of the other movies we watch, but just only slightly. Like, it's like there are a few redeeming things about it, but like you said, boring is probably the worst sin that a movie can commit. And at least
I really want to emphasize something. I hate using that word when I'm reviewing a movie or anything. I hate it because it feels so easy. That's the word that people who don't think about movies critically just use whenever they don't like something. They'll say, "Oh, this is boring," and they're talking about, I don't know, like 2001: Space Odyssey. Oh, that movie was boring. No, it's
No
not.
Country for Old Men.
I get that. No, it's not. You heathen. You're just not smart enough for it. Go away. Right?
Yeah.
So many people use that word, and it's so overused, it's misused, and it doesn't. So I hate using it. But sometimes that's what a movie is. Sometimes they just don't do enough to actually make it enticing, and that's when you come to this. And that's why I really want to emphasize that I like bottle horror movies. I like characters trapped in a location. I like danger outside, monster movies. I love the Monster.
Yeah.
We talked about that last year.
Yeah.
I really liked that movie, and that was two characters in a car, and there was a monster outside. I loved that movie.
Yeah.
So I want to emphasize that I like these types of movies. It's just this one is not that well made. When it comes to the scare stuff, when it comes to first opening act, fine. Rest of it, though, when it's actually time to have the tension and the scares and the frights, gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
So now, I think I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Oh dear. Okay. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I think there's been a trend recently, actually, where you've been given like half a point higher to almost every movie this year so far. I'm going to go the opposite for this one because, like I say, I think it at least looks more like a professional thing than some other stuff. It didn't look ugly like Don't Knock Twice did. The opening act does have some nice natural character introductions and progressions. The theme's nice. The ideas are okay. The execution is poor, of course. So because of that, I am actually going to stretch it up to a 4.
Okay. I was flirting with a 4, but I don't know.
I'll be honest, halfway through, when we'd been in the tent for like 20 minutes, I was thinking, right, this is probably going to be right bang in the middle, mediocre 5. but then it just kind of never picked up again as well. So it was just kind of like, okay, by the end I'm a bit more grudgeful. So 4.
Yeah.
So for those keeping track, that's
Sad.
two. That's 2 1s, a 2, a 3, and a 4 I've given out so far this year.
Jeez.
We're
Yeah,
we're in such a rut. Such a rut.
I don't know if. I mean, other than Split, I don't know if I've given anything above a 5.
I think Autopsy of Jane Doe was technically the first movie we did at the start of January.
yeah.
So if you want to count
If you
that.
count, if you count that, I actually really enjoyed that quite a bit. But
See, the thing is I was a bit more lukewarm in that, but I still liked it way more than anything else
yeah.
we've watched since. Other than
I
Split.
think at the very least, you can, see that there is like more merit and
Oh yeah.
interest and
No
stuff.
doubt. No doubt. Hopefully next week we'll break the streak. Unfortunately, I'm not counting a 4 and a 3.5 as breaking that streak. No. Do you know what's going to be upsetting though? It's going to be upsetting if we get like a 6, because it's going to feel like, well, technically it's on the positive side of the scale,
Yeah.
but it's not like an outright success either. I really want like an 8 and up. I want something that comes in and blows us away and goes, yeah, that was great.
Yeah. I have I think we have a couple of surprises.
Let's not talk
coming
about
up the
them.
next couple of weeks. But
I know. There's
nothing
some,
specific, but
there's potential things coming up.
Yeah.
But we're hopeful. But anyway, guys, that's when this episode of Screams After Midnight. Let us know what you think of Arbor Demon if you've seen it in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for the channel updates. You can get me on Twitter at Wibble89 for my general ramblings, at Tim Vergulish for Tim over there for his general ramblings. There's some top comedy occasionally on his Twitter, and I say that with the utmost sincerity.
Oh.
That was sarcasm.
Oh.
See what I did there? I said it was sincere, but no. But no, guys, thanks very much for watching. Keep watching scary movies. We will see you next time.